Active Astrology and Transactional Analysis by Ciro Discepolo, excerpted from the book Nuovo Trattato delle Rivoluzioni Solari, New Treatise on Solar Returns, Armenia, Editore, Milan. Transactional analysis proposes a specific framework for interpreting ego states and the resulting relationships that can exist between these states in two or more individuals. Let's start from the beginning and see how this can be relevant to the discussion of active astrology. We refer to Eric Berne's book, published by Bompiani, Ciao, e poi, hello, and then? Here in summary, it is theorized that the structure of the ego is not something unique and indistinct, as in other psychoanalytic theories, but rather a vertical structure with three levels of complexity. Let's refer to the figure proposed here and read from the book in question. Figure 1a therefore represents the diagram of the complete personality of every human being and includes everything he can feel, think, say, or do. Its simplified version is represented in Figure 1b. A more detailed analysis does not lead to the discovery of new ego states, but only subdivisions within the primary ones. It is thus evident that a careful study will reveal, in most cases, two components of the parent ego, one deriving from the father, the other from the mother, and it will also highlight the parent, adult, and child components within the child ego state that were already present when the child was structured, as can be verified by observing a real child. This second-order analysis is schematized in Figure 1c. In the diagnosis of ego states, the separation of one behavior feeling pattern from another is called structural analysis. Transactional analysis aims to discover the ego's mistaken attitudes toward of others, and especially within the family where dramas take place. Another effective method for discovering the essential outlines of the script is to ask the person concerned. If your family life were represented on a stage, what kind of theatrical work do you think it would be? Family dramas usually take their name from Greek tragedies, for example, Oedipus and Electra, a typical script in which the boy fights against his father for possession of his mother, and the girl instead wants her father all to herself. But the script analyst must also know what the parents can do, whom we will call here, for convenience, Opis and Artele. Opis is the other side of the Oedipus tragedy and expresses the mother's sexual desires, whether open or repressed, towards her son, while Artele is the other side of Electra and reveals the father's sexual desires towards his daughter. A more thorough investigation will almost always reveal rather obvious transactions demonstrating that these desires are not imaginary, even though the parent usually tries to conceal them by playing storm with the child. That is, the disturbed parent attempts to cover up their child's sexual desires for their offspring by impersonating the parent and behaving with the offspring in a way that leads to arguments. But then these feelings invariably end up manifesting themselves at the first opportunity, despite all efforts to conceal them by playing storm or other similar devices. It must be said that the happiest parents are still those who openly admire and feel attracted to their children without ever trying to hide it. Therefore, as we have read, even transactional psychology involves a constellation of the symbol and outlet for it. In fact, during these sessions, the analyst invites participants to act out their internal dramas on a hypothetical stage. The patient will have to, from time to time, change his voice, become a child again, be tearful or authoritarian, and so on. This type of analysis therefore involves an exposure, a representation, a release of the forces pressing from within. As in the case of the psychiatrist Gianfranco Tedeschi, here too the symbol is brought to life, albeit in different ways. Among contemporary astrologers, there are colleagues who, being also psychologists with a predominantly transactional orientation, invite their patients' consultants to theatrically represent their own natal chart. I have intentionally touched on territory that is not mine to demonstrate that my discussion on the exercising of symbols is not necessarily limited to a single Jungian matrix, but can range in a much broader sense.